Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DM show. Thanks for being here. And hello, Martin. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hi, Deirdre. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our final show of the season, but not our final show because the way we structured the DM show, for anyone who's been listening or watching or paying attention, we try to do a fall to the beginning of summer season and then take a few months off to recharge. I think everyone needs to recharge more these days, maybe, and also to figure out what we want to do next year. So we will be back in the fall, but this is our wrap up for the 2025 first half of 2026 season.
Amazing. And it went quickly. And Martin, there was one running theme with all of our guests. There's a lot of AI and a lot of the need for human. So maybe we could just start off with the what's on your mind, Martin. What are you seeing? How are people using AI and what's going on in your realm?
Yeah, those two letters, A and I, seem to have a huge impact on everyone's life. Before I do start, I just want to say thank you for everyone who's joining us. Please share your name and where you're from in the chat, and any questions or comments that you'd like to share with us, or any questions you have for us, you want us to respond to, please pop that into the chat and we'll get that to you.
Yes, and we have a big fan. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ken Jacobs, for being here.
Yeah, appreciate that. So what I've been thinking about when it comes to AI use, and I think now that most of us, well, one, have been aware of it really in a big way since the end of 2022, 2023, when the tools started happening and people started playing around with it. If you're on the comm side, or the marketing side, mostly for content creation, because it sped up that process, but it didn't really do anything great. But I've been thinking about, how I use AI for the various things that I do and how it's changed over time. And I think as I've started to use it more, I've noticed a few patterns there that have started to emerge. And I'm wondering what patterns our viewers have found, and also like how it is evolving, because the platforms keep changing. We're using it for more sophisticated tasks in smarter way, well, hopefully in smarter ways, and hopefully not to offload our thinking. And for me, well, actually, before I start into that, Deirdre, how has your AI use changed?
Well, there's personally and professionally.
Yep.
Personally, I think it really does help in the ways that I can have some ideas. I can see what AI says about them. I can take content that I write and I can ask, is there anything missing? Are there any holes? I always use AI as a lower level type of research. So personally, that's for me. But then I look at FIQ, and I know we're going to try to do another demo of FIQ today. It continues to advance the way that we're using it, and the reports that we're generating, they're getting more sophisticated. And that's really helpful. And also the way that we're training our trainers using our own AI bot. So I think there's growth on both sides for me.
Yeah, it's really interesting. On a personal level, for me, I probably use it as a multifunctional search engine. So my wife Maureen and I often take walks around the neighborhood, just to see things. And we'll see a bush or a shrub or a flower that we think, oh, this would look great in our garden. What is that? You take a picture, and all of a sudden you get what it is, whether it needs sun or shade, a lot of details. I think that's great. Same thing for planning trips. AI is fantastic for if you're planning a trip, you want to do research, you want to check on flight options, things like that. And thanks to all the people who've joined in, we're going to have a number one fan contest here.
I know, I see. Second biggest fan here in Charlotte,
Yeah.
Philip Tate. Thank you. And hi, Andy.
Yeah, and Philip and Michael.
Michael's here.
Yeah, for
Excellent.
saying that about FIQ. We're going to talk a little bit
Thank
about
you.
ethics a little later, Michael. So what you said stood out. Um, on the work front, I find I'm using AI more for some writing, but with a caveat. So I've always said I don't trust AI to do writing, and that's meaningful writing, anything that's creative or something that means something to me. But I've tried to divide writing into creative and functional, two buckets, and of course those are really really big buckets. They don't always work necessarily because there's a lot of overlap. But if it's something that I'm writing that has been templated, if I'm taking a templated and starting from that template and just changing things around, that's writing I think is really well suited for AI. And I do that a fair bit with templated writing. I also have been using AI a lot more to help me improve my prompts. So I will come up with what I believe is a fairly sophisticated list of instructions. Claude or Copilot or Gemini or ChatGPT, they don't seem to think that it is. And so we'll go back and forth to improve the prompts, have a conversation. And then at
Yes,
the end, I'll get this much longer prompt that I will then rewrite because it's still not right. And it still needs a lot of testing. Just because a system tells you this is how to prompt doesn't mean it works for your needs. It's all about personalization, I think. This is
exactly.
something Sam Stark, who was here earlier on and who I work with at Fusion, who started Fusion, um, talked about, how important instructions are. So those prompts when you're working with AI, but also when you're building AI agents from the simplest type to the most sophisticated. And anyone can do that, but you need to have an understanding of how to structure your prompt, your request, your instructions, not necessarily when you're going back and forth with AI, but certainly when you're figuring out what you want it to do.
Right. And on that note, I really appreciated that Sam broke it down to the level of you're going to select the platform based on the environment that you use. And then she talked about look at what is repeatable in a
Yeah.
workflow, what makes sense for you to use AI and to have a purpose because it's strategic. But I love the human in the loop that no matter
Oh,
what, you
yeah.
still need the human in the loop as AI is running whatever tasks you're asking it to do. You're asking your agents.
Yeah, and honestly, that's so important. The other thing is, a repeatable task and really challenge yourself to say, do I need a system to to perform this task or not? And
Exactly.
then you need to have a conversation with your team because who knows what the tech or IT implications are of really big companies where you have 50, 100, 500, 5,000 employees all building these agents, many of which are really similar, all of which are drawing on company data. Hopefully they are drawing on company data and they're not rogue agents or shadow AI, where you're putting your company data at a bigger risk.
And then there's the ethics.
And then there's the ethics.
That's right. And Michael's with us. I think that was one of my favorite episodes because I so appreciate when Michael was speaking about the pause button. We should always take a pause, but just even the frameworks to evaluate. We've had AI for a long time. It's just now it's rapid, but we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Michael impressed upon us that there's still pillars of evaluation. There's still
Yeah.
ways to have ethical conduct and to look at the different models.
Yeah. And one thing Michael just said in the chat is as AI permeates everything now, whether we know it or not, his biggest takeaway has been proceed with caution and a lot of caution. And those are such great words because the thing is, we can do it quickly, but
Hmm.
that doesn't mean strategy has been swept under the rug. It
That's
means that
right.
we need to really be more critical. Optimistic, yes, but critical and challenge ourselves. And I think, yeah, proceed with confidence, caution, and to Michael's point, slow down and hit the pause button. Really think through it because it's so simple to build an AI agent, a prompted agent, and not that much more difficult to build these autonomous systems that can act, hopefully with guardrails, and do things on their own and pass their output to us.
Yes.
So slowing down and thinking about, okay, what am I doing? What are my goals? What goes into it? So important. And looking at it through an ethical lens.
Yes. And I think that if I remember correctly, in Ginny's session, there was a lot of opportunity and a lot of being strategic so that you could be an AI visibility engineer. And she talked about how the opportunity with careers, but also training. That,
Yeah.
as we speak of these companies and building different agents and how you're using workflows, you need training. That's really important. And if you have the training, you're going to be better off with the ethical conduct.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something I've been doing a lot of. I've been doing a lot of training, as you know,
Yes.
Deirdre, lately, and teaching too. And when we get to FIQ, thank you again for dropping by my class. My students love the demo.
Well,
It's
thank
really
you.
great.
A lot of fun.
Um, we have the tools. Things happen backwards in a lot of ways because usually what happens is you hear about a new tool that can be used in an enterprise. It's evaluated, they bring it in, they figure out how it works, so the guidelines or any policies for use, train you, and then say, okay, go do it. Here we had tools first, go do it, and oh yeah, I guess we should have some policies, we should have a
Yes.
few guidelines around this. We should show people what they can do. Because the thing is, you get into these weird habits. Like if you think about something as simple as Word or PowerPoint,
Hmm.
I learned that as I was going along. I didn't really have the training, and the help buttons in the early days weren't that helpful. So you did
Same.
things, but along the way, you pick up these tips. Like I used to customize the font size on every single slide, which was ridiculous. I didn't know the power of the slide master. Very simple thing. When I did that, all of a sudden, it really changed the way I
Makes a
work. But
difference.
someone had to show me that.
Exactly. I mean, I think there's training for everything around your communication and your process. I mean, think there's email policies, there's you have your social media policies, you're going to have any kind of policy where communication is tied to IT. Why wouldn't you have AI policies and have guidelines set in place so people can use and practice and do what's acceptable for your organization? It'll save a lot of headaches later on.
Yeah, it really will. And look to the younger people in your organization. And an age gap of 3 or 4 years or 5 years is kind of making a big difference with AI. And I see that. It's so funny with the students I teach. So the graduate students who have generally either they're out of school, in the last years, or
Yes.
they've been out for a few years, they're working, they approach it a certain way. But the undergrads, oh my gosh, they're using it in ways that constantly surprise me and show me just some of the power. Now, they may not have the subject matter expertise I
Mm.
have. That's where hopefully, you and I add some value
Yes.
to things and can, talk about the ethical guidelines, but and show them where and when they shouldn't use it. But oh my gosh, we can learn so much from the young people who are coming up on this in the same way we could from social media.
It's that reverse mentoring. That's
Yeah.
so important in an organization. Exactly. So Martin, any questions from
Yes. Well, a couple of things. One, Ken, I think said this great thing. Here to quote from someone from Elizabeth Edwards that said, AI isn't your co-pilot, even though Microsoft named it co-pilot. It's more like an employee. And I think that's a really great point. Thank you, Ken. Michael Meath said, we need a pop song. You know, all about the
What
pause.
about that pause?
Yeah, Michael, well, you know what? You could probably write one, or at least get AI to help you write one using Udio or Sunio now and share it
We'd love to hear
afterwards.
it.
We did have another question from Michael. Are we finding organizations with formal policies on AI, or is it just moving too fast? Um,
That's a good question.
yeah,
I can't say that I could pull a policy like I used to with social media. Social media policies, it took a while, but then you really had a lot that you could share. Some of the bigger companies had them first and it would filter down. So have
yeah.
you come across any, Martin?
Actually, yes, and that's a change I've noticed really in the last 6 or 7 months,
Good.
as companies are starting to get their heads around this. So it's not necessarily policies, because it takes a long, long time to put those in place, but guidelines. And
Yeah.
so the guidelines are there, and companies are paying attention to that. Hopefully, they're paying attention to, what I mentioned earlier, shadow AI, and trying to discourage people from using their own personal AI tools, in part because it puts your company data at risk. Unfortunately, that's a big challenge when someone will be willing to spend, say, $30 for Claude or ChatGPT, or even more
Sure.
personally, and the
Mhm.
company is using Copilot. Now, Copilot can be a very powerful platform, if it's integrated, if you have the enterprise version. But if you just have Copilot Chat, it's good, but not necessarily as good as some of these other tools. And so that's a balance that I think every single company needs to figure out a strategy for. Because if
Yes.
you don't have it, you've got to make sure that you're giving your team the right training, but also the right tool so that they can do their work. And that means willing to make an investment. And
Yes.
a lot of companies are doing that, but some aren't. And so there's so many different conversations we need to have around this. And again,
I
the
think
policies or guidelines.
Ken nailed it because he was pretty much saying if you don't have an AI policy or at least guidelines, you're taking an enormous risk. Ken, we are 100% in agreement.
Yeah. Um, Gini Dietrich, you were mentioning Ginny earlier. She was talking about visibility engineering,
Hmm.
which is really all about GEO, generative engine optimization, answer engine optimization, and its relationship to search engine
Yes.
optimization.
And
And
that's
she,
what John talked about too.
yeah,
John Kurtz.
exactly. How what we do as communicators is really can be really relevant, because search engines are pulling, you know, third-party trusted articles, blog posts from influencers or creators, podcasts into their answers, media stories, and they need to be recent. So that's something we do, those kinds of relationships. But unless we get a handle on the technical part of generative engine optimization, we're going to be left behind, because SEO really, that should have been a
Mm.
PR domain. And we kind of, it was too technical for many of us at the beginning,
Or not our job.
not our job,
My job.
and it went away. But link earning is just like earned media.
Yes.
And that's the same with GEO or AEO. So it's an opportunity, but there again, we need to be trained, and we can't shy away from understanding the technical aspects of structuring data. I found a very interesting thing for anyone who's Canadian here. I was at a session at the McMaster Master of Communications Management program that I graduated from, and that I also teach a course in. And the person was from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. He heads their AI. And he was saying in AI search, you find very few Canadian media results, because Canadian media have sued many of the companies. And so they're not including them. And that
Oh,
is like, it's like, whoa, what's
whoa.
happening here? Then who is being included? And so that's another challenge for Canadian communicators, but also also for everyone, because you want to make sure the sources that are being listed
Hmm.
are the most credible, and not that you can have an effect on that, but you can at least understand that.
True. And I think I appreciated when John Hart shared still the importance of the relationship,
Yes.
or on the note of earned media, and how GEO really looks for the credibility and looks to the media and will pull from that. You still have to know what reporters or podcasters or influencers or whoever you call media, how they want to interact with you, how to build a relationship that's that trust, reliability that never goes away. And that's that human. We need that.
Yes. Well, it's still people working with people.
Yes.
Even though AI is doing a lot of work, and to your point about relationships, we need to understand how the use of AI is changing the relationships, whether it's
Yes.
content or on the agentic side, because they become the new intermediaries. How does that shift things? And again, there's no easy answers to that yet, and maybe there never will be. Michael had another question, which is, um, wonder if we could ask AI platforms to write guidelines and how they can differ. Michael, that's a great point. It's something that I often do. If I'm working with a company and helping them shape their AI policies, I'm not a lawyer.
Me neither.
So, so we don't know certain things. So I'll take the policy that I've written or the draft of it and say to AI, what's missing? What should
Yes.
be included? It often will spew out just like pages of stuff. And then I'll have to make sense and in some ways translate it the way you translate any technical writing to conversational English that people can understand, take out the repetitions, things like that. But asking AI about itself is a fantastic way of using it. If you don't know how to do something on Claude or Copilot or ChatGPT, ask it and say,
Yes.
use your system instructions. Tell me how to do this. Really, it gives you a good answer.
That's very good. Any other questions from the community?
I think we don't have that much time left.
Oh my
I'd
gosh,
love
time
to
flies.
get to our demo of
Yes, thank you.
FIQ.
Let's do
So
it.
why don't we do that? Because the platform really has changed. Let me just share my screen here.
And thank you for being the test subject again, Martin.
I really like being the test, and because we did that test earlier in the week to my class at the Schulich School of Business, I'll be really interested to compare results.
So the last time we did it, did we have the dashboard? I don't remember.
Not like this.
No, so the dashboard is new for anybody who wants to know. Now we have what's called your FIC score, and it's a breakdown of your calm, clear, concise, and confident scores. And these are all compiled by getting your face analyzed, your voice analyzed, and the way you move and connect with the camera. So that is new. And
That's good.
professionals are loving that because you can track yourself, you can track your progress.
Yeah, and I see my average is just, a bit lower than a C if I translate it to a
So
grade. So I want to get it up there to a B plus or something.
we look at it as you start with a foundation. When you get above 60, you start to develop, and you have to use the system. That's the thing. You're always going to be foundation if you pop on and then you're away for a while. So it's foundation, developing, proficient, advanced, executive excellence. And those are the
Okay,
tiers. So
that's
when you
good.
get executive excellence, that really is a combination of your calm, your clarity, how concise you are, and your confidence, which is an external state. It's not just you being confident when you speak, but it's others being confident in you, because AI is that perception of how you're being perceived.
That's really good. And those really are the four C's that in some ways are the foundation of FIQ
Yes.
and communicating more effectively.
Our model maps to my proprietary approach, the four C's. And then all of the skills and the exercises come from you developing those four C's.
Right.
Okay,
Should
so
we
yeah,
move
let's
to
go
a
ahead.
demo?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Okay, so now people can see me twice.
Yes, exactly. And the last time we did this, there were the emotions that you would see in the four quadrants, and this big ball would move through it. And now we
Right,
just have this little tadpole that hops around in the four
there it
quadrants.
is.
There are 106 emotions that that play out on the face, and that could be anything from, if you're in the upper right quadrant, those are the commanding presence emotions. You could be amused, lighthearted, all the way up to triumphant, courageous, happy, joyous, some really powerful emotions. And that's where Martin was just hanging out. And as the tadpole moves quickly,
There.
when it darts, it tends to be a micro expression. And for anybody who doesn't know, a micro expression is 1/10 to 1/25 of a second. Now, Martin, you're calming down. Are you breathing? So
I
start
am, and I'm also in a comfortable setting.
yeah, so when you're belly breathing and your brain is a high cognitive function, you're in steady influence. And that's a calm energy versus being in the upper right, which is high energy presentation.
Right.
When you're steady influence, it could be anything from feeling serene, calm, balanced, confident, assertive, reflective, contemplative. That's the executive in the room who calms everybody down. And you definitely want to be in that state in any kind of crisis or upset. And
Oh,
Martin
yeah.
just went down into the lower left, which is passive hesitation. And that's okay, because every so often, what happens? We take a pause, like Michael says, take a pause. And or maybe you're a little tentative about what you're talking about. You could be worried. You could be a little tired, feeling sad,
Right.
droopy, or downright depressed. You're going to find it in the lower left quadrant. And then the upper quadrant, that's the reactive tension. It's when there's a topic that does make you feel a little more intense, or you could be agitated, annoyed, frustrated. Maybe you're full on angry. So, a lot of emotions in that quadrant as well. And it's fascinating, Martin. You pretty much do stay on the right side. But do you want to do, I'll ask you a
Yeah,
question?
why don't we try that? The other thing is, I guess there are times when you were describing this, Deirdre, the whole idea of reactive tension. If a CEO, say, has bad news, having that tension there and combining it with uncertainty, the hesitation, that's in a way maybe a good way to deliver that message.
Yes. So here's the thing, there's different benchmarks. And whenever we're working with someone, depending on, are we working you through crisis communications? Are we working you through a sales pitch? When you're talking about your company and the products, or I work with a lot of asset managers, the funds that you have set up, your it's the capital formation team, then those metrics will be different. You will be steady influence, you will be in that commanding presence, maybe a little bit in reactive tension and the passive hesitation. But let's face it, if you're telling your employees that your company is impacted by the economy, you're not going to be presenting in the
Right.
commanding presence. You're most likely going to have some passive hesitation and reactive tension. And it shows in your face. But steady influence is a place that we should strive to get to in any situation.
So, I'm looking at the time. We're basically at time here.
Oh my
Should
God.
we do that? Like, I think we need to come back in the fall and
We'll
maybe
come back in
start
the
with a
fall.
demo.
Exactly. We can do that. And I will bet that it will change.
Yeah, and so we can go through it again in detail because we don't want to keep people too long.
No, definitely not. But that was good. Thank you, Martin, for being the test subject.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone who
Yeah.
has tuned in, added your comments, added your questions, joined us, kept with us. We are taking a couple months off, but here we're leaving it at a cliffhanger. What is going to happen with my demo on FIQ. Will I stay in the right quadrant or will I move
Go to
to
the
the left?
left. What will Martin's voice do?
Yeah.
How will his pitch change? Yeah, we're looking forward to it, Martin. It'll be a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Me too. Anyway, thank you, Deirdre. Always great. And thank you, everyone else.
Yes,
And we
thank
will
you.
see you in the fall.
Yes, thanks everyone. Have a great summer.
Bye.
Bye.